Before we get into the video, I need you guys to do me a favour. Number 1, like the video. Also comment, let me know your thoughts on the case. 56-year-old Roger Harriott is what you would call a wicked and plain evil individual. He failed in all aspects of life, especially as a father, because his own teenage son, Giovanni Harriott, was jailed for the publicised murder of 17-year-old Khayri McLean, who was fatally stabbed when leaving school. And now, Roger Harriott is in prison himself after he chased down his own sister in the street and hacked at her with a samurai sword. It also proved fatal. Now, because Roger Harriott couldn't come to terms with the fact that his own sister, 56-year-old Sandra Harriott, was responsible for the care and managing of the finances of their mom, something grandiose had flipped in Roger inside himself. Now, Sandra, who was a mom of 2, had shared a home in Fartown, Huddersfield, with her 80-year-old mom, who had Alzheimer's. Now, Roger was toxic, plain and simple. He was a man who had done little to nothing to care for his mom and wanted control. He had been arrested just 3 weeks prior to the end of his own sister, on suspicion of defrauding their aging mom. Now, when situations like this arise, it's normally a sibling not wanting to spend money on a family member's care because they think it would cut into their inheritance. Now, I say that because when Roger Harriott was arrested, it was reported that he had confessed to police Sandra Harriott, his sister, would not be getting her hands on any of his mom's money, which was strange, as reports showed that Roger was a toxic person and Sandra was living with the mom and caring for her too. Now, the sibling relationship between Sandra and Roger had been very bad since 2020. In the days and months since, Roger had subjected his sister to something like a crash dummy and also bag. He had spat at her, called her names, and also attempted to struck her with his car. Now, Sandra was so scared of her brother that she carried a personal alarm and also taken out a restraining order on the brother in 2022 in order to try and stop him from coming near her or the Fartown home. It did not work. Roger was said to have been a collector of sharp blades, so it was not an overstatement to say that he was fascinated by weapons. And then, on the 27th of May of 2023, Roger drove from his home in Bradford to Huddersfield, which is roughly 10 miles, and waited for his sister Sandra Harriott in order to start her morning. Now, courts heard that Roger Harriott had waited outside their address for 2 hours, up until 7 a.m, when Sandra exited the home. Roger then got out of his car, armed with a samurai sword, and slashed the air, and then made a mad dash towards his sister. Now, Sandra panicked, screaming no and help, before she attempted to run away. Sadly, the shocking incident was caught on CCTV, and it showed just how quick Roger was, because he caught up to his sister and then began to hack at Sandra 8 times. She then fell to the ground, and then Roger slashed some more times at his sister. Now, in a last-ditch effort, Sandra kicked out and rolled and attempted to defend herself against her brother, but it was no use. Even when Roger knew that he had completed the sick objective and he had won, this is how evil he was. He walked back towards his car and then decided to turn around, looking at his sister in pain, slowly not moving. But his anger knew no bounds. He then went back to his sister and then stabbed her in the chest in the final act. Sandra was rushed to hospital, where sadly she was pronounced dead. Now, after the game, Roger drove to Huddersfield police station and then explained to police officers that he had just killed his sister. Actually, the actual words that he used was, "I've just murdered someone, my dad's daughter, the weapon is in the car." Now, police found a 55-inch sword, stained with red, as well as other weapons. Roger explained that he had previously looked after his mom and her finances and refused that he was responsible for the 134 transactions that amounted for upwards of £20,000 unaccounted for of his mom's money, or why she would need to spend that on her basic needs. Now, Roger was jailed for the M of his own sister and was jailed for life with a minimum term of 23 years. Condolences. Stay safe.